Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment, delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd Pianin, with over $2 billion in funded loans.
Hey, what's happening? An early happy 4th of July for you. It's Real Estate Exposed here on KOGO 600. I'm Daniel Beer, the Daniel Beer Group. Look, beer is spelled just like the drink. If you want to look us up, get any more information, or connect with us, beer just like the drink. Daniel Beer Group at Keller Williams Realty, and I'm excited as ever to be here with you. And my man Todd, what's up, Todd?
Good morning. Happy 4th of July, Dan. It's going to be tomorrow. Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank. My partner, Taisha Lindsay. You can find us at tntmtg.com or Todd and Taisha on Facebook. Just looking forward to a nice It's been a nice 4th of July weekend. It's been a lot of fun, and I get to spend tomorrow with you and your team, with my son. So that's going to be exciting for the 4th of July parade in Del Sur. That'll be kind of nice.
That's going to be awesome. We're really looking forward to it, and just what an incredible job Del Sur does with that event. It's awesome. Before we actually jump into the show, though, very quickly, I just want to give a very special, heartfelt thank you, bottom of my heart. Every day I get to go to work with people that I'm humbled to be in business with, and a national ranking body called Realtrends. Realtrends is reported by the Wall Street Journal.
Well, this is big news, people. Big news. Well, so proud of my boy Dan here.
I'm really proud of the team. The team, where we came in, we debuted it was our debut year on the list for our highest producing teams in the entire country. We came in at number 224.
That's awesome.
With almost $3 million in sales last year. This is 2015 numbers. You're talking about 224 out of more than 1.2 million realtors around the country. And it's just an incredible accomplishment to be part of that group. It is, people talking about being in the top 1%. This is the top 1% of the top 1%, true elite. And I would not be there without this incredible team that we have. And so many special thank yous to everybody from Brian to Laura to Jennifer and Michelle and Casey and Bree and everybody else. Austin Fisher, who could forget you?
Joe.
Joe is the man. The guy he's just literally the best listing specialist in the county. And I'm humbled to be part of it. In San Diego, came in number 5 for last year. Year-to-date per MLS metrics, number 1 in the county. So we'll see how this year's rankings get reported, right, which will come out next year. But anyway, enough about us. Just wanted to give a special thanks to those guys. And I want you to know.
I have to say thank you, though, because, you guys support us wholeheartedly, and we wouldn't be as successful as we are if it weren't for you and your team. You guys are awesome. You guys are true professionals, and it's such an honor to be working with you guys, knowing that you're ranked so well in the country. I was just, when I saw those numbers come out, I just sat there on my computer and kept looking for you. I was so excited.
Well, it's important for you to know that when you're getting advice and perspective from Todd or I, Todd's somebody that's funded over $1 billion in loans over the course of his career, really at the top of the mortgage industry. And then our team performing at the very top on a national level of the real estate industry. So I only share that with you just so you understand that the perspective we share, the ideas we give you, the angle that we have on what is the right way to buy or sell a home, we're never guessing at it. We're not hoping that what we share with you will work. It's not theoretical, but rather we implement this on a daily basis, literally. Okay, literally in 2016, our team has sold a home every 41 hours. Okay, so every 41 hours, we put a home in escrow. So what we're sharing with you is very much out of practice and out of observation of what has worked. It's never theoretical. It's never, just pie in the sky theory. Having said that, let's jump in because there's a ton of interesting stuff going on in an international level as it trickles down here. Okay. And if you want to connect with us, as you are listening to Real Estate Exposed, you can call 800-676-2420. That's 800-676-2420.
Or you can find us on Facebook, Real Estate Exposed. You can find us on YouTube, or you can find our podcast. If you want to hear the whole show and you're in your car and you're missing something, we have a podcast on iTunes as well. So look for us there. So let's talk about what's happening in Brexit. You know, I mean, the UK is pulling out of the euro. I don't know if, you know, some of you, most people know about this.
Well, they never used the euro, right? So they've always stayed on the pound, but they're pulling out of Europe.
No, really? Okay. Well, Dan knows more about that than I do. I thought you could use the euro when you were in England. I've never been to England.
No, so here's what's happening. In as we know, Europe, the UK has pulled out of Europe. Okay, they've never adopted the euro whatsoever. They've always stayed on the pound. They were never fully bought in, but in any case, we know that they've now voted to leave Europe. But where the news is all of this international turmoil that's caused in terms of the markets. The markets internationally are going absolutely haywire over the course of the last, whatever it's been, 7 to 10 days. And we want to discuss how that affects us here locally in our real estate market and really the biggest effect that it's having on us on a local level is interest rates. Todd, what's been going on with interest rates?
They're dropping. So what you're seeing is a flight to quality, Dan. You're seeing money run into the bond market, and you're seeing money run into gold. And what happens is now we're locking in people daily because buyers who are basically, or people wanting to refinance, because basically rates are getting lower than they've ever been. I think that the market's also keeping the rates up a little bit artificially because they don't want to have this massive outpouring of early payoffs on loans, but we're seeing rates. I mean, we're locking in one of your buyers today on an FHA loan. I think we're locking in like a 3.25 today. It's unbelievable. Which I shouldn't be talking about rates on.
So those interest rates are tied to the 10-year bond typically, right? The 10-year Treasury note.
Correct.
So what has the 10-year note been doing?
It dropped. Well, when Brexit was announced, after it was announced in the morning, we were the day before we were trading, the yield was trading right about 1.71. The day after the day after it was announced in the morning, the bond market, the 10-year yield dropped to about 1.48 the next day, which caused interest rates to drop about 1/4 to 3/8 in rate. So I mean, we've talked to people that either have bought homes in the last 3 months and we're refinancing them now just to get them into a lower interest rate. It's unbelievable.
So the most immediate impact of Brexit, which again is the UK's vote to leave the European Union, will be on mortgage interest rates. Okay, interest rates have remained at historic lows for the last several years, but contrary really to what most experts believed what would happen, but the rates have remained low throughout the first half of 2016 and now have actually gone even lower.
Correct.
They've gone lower. However, this is likely to be a very temporary, it's going to last only a few months, most likely. It's only going to last a few months at these low rates. We're not trying to scare you into thinking that they're going to go sky high.
No.
They're going to remain relatively low for a while. We think through 2016 at this point because we do not see Yellen and the Fed raising rates on a Federal Reserve level whatsoever this year.
Well, they're calling. I mean, I've listened to a whole bunch of experts on this, and they're calling for there could be a recession in the UK. A short-term recession in the UK, which would also probably could force a little bit of a recession here or some deflation here in the U.S. With interest rates being as low as they are, what you're seeing buyers being able to buy at higher prices because they can afford more because their payments are lower because you have lower interest rates. So, I mean, for the average buyer, I mean, an eighth or a quarter in interest rate can illustrate to almost a $25,000 to $50,000 jump in purchase price.
Which is really an interesting thing because it's interest rates that are keeping housing anywhere near affordable.
Right.
Because the median price point has actually now reached $490 in San Diego County.
Which is, where was it this time last year? Do you remember, Dan?
I don't have that in front of me, but we were definitely not here.
We're like 435 or something like that?
We've made a significant leap, and that growth is outpacing any kind of income or wage growth.
Correct.
And so what's happening is the only reason that a housing continues to be somewhat affordable in the county is that these interest rates are creating a counterbalance to this pricing movement. But you have it's just a very interesting environment where, again, if you're a buyer
or a seller, right?
If you're here's the thing: you're going to be a seller and a buyer. But if you own property that you don't want to own over the course of the next 7 to 10 years, you need to sell that home now to a very rich buyer pool. And we're going to talk in the next segment about 5 reasons why you want to sell your home this summer.
Right.
But you want to sell now to a very rich buyer pool with incredible interest rates, which create more affordability for them, which increase the demand for your property. And then you want to become a buyer so you can lock in an interest rate long term that will live through any kind of short-term blip in the market.
So Dan, when Brexit was announced and we saw interest rates drop, did like a massive amount of call volume go up? Did you guys get a lot of, did your team start picking up a lot more buyers, or a lot more buyers get off the fence? I mean, what did you see? What was just real-time reaction in your office? Because you guys are always buzzing, your phones are always ringing. I mean, Austin's always calling, Brian's showing property, Bree's showing property.
We had one of our agents over the course of 2 hours on the phone just following up with our database, set 5 appointments with buyers that had been in our database and that finally set an appointment to get going. Now, did they consciously tie that back to the UK's vote, to what we call Brexit? I don't know. What we do know is that we have a very specific message that we're talking and we're loud and clear with.
Right.
Rates right now, okay, if you thought you were going to be a buyer a month from now, silly not to be one today.
Correct.
Okay, if you're one of those people that get on a website because you're just quote unquote looking, well then, buddy, what are you looking for? And make your mind up on what it is you're looking for, because your payment's about to shift. If you can't, you're about to benefit from being able to make a decision, or you're about to lose from indecision.
The best story I can tell you about that was when Brexit was announced. I called Brian immediately. It was like at 9:30 at night, and he was about ready to go to bed. And he had just put one of his best friends into escrow that day, and I wanted to make sure he got into escrow. And so Taisha and I got up at 6:30 in the morning to make sure that we could, because we wanted to get him locked in at the bottom. Because when news, when news is announced, that's when you get the best. That's when you get the best results.
Overreaction.
Right. And so, but Brian's like, when I called him up, he was like, "What? Why you? I'm going to bed."
And so, if you don't know, Brian is a buyer specialist on our team, the #1 buyer specialist in the county. Listen, we're going to be back with you here coming out of the break with 5 reasons you want to be a home seller this summer. And if you want to connect with Todd or I, the number here, 800-676-2420. That's 800-676-2420. Hey, here's 5 reasons to sell your home this summer. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed with Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. That's Daniel Beer at Daniel Beer Group at Keller Williams and Todd Pianin of Home Street Bank. 5 reasons to sell your home this summer.
Can I just butt in real quick before you talk about that? Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Most certainly you can. Of course, Todd. What's up?
So I just got an email, and I just saw an email that just went across my desk. And do you realize that as a bank, just today alone, we have 540 new loan applications?
No. What do you? That's today.
That's today. A typical day is about 250.
So in the last segment, we're talking about buyer urgency and locking in these incredible rates that we have right now due to the UK's vote to leave Europe, which created a huge flight to safety, which typically takes place in international money, buying up U.S. Treasuries. That 10-year bond has just dropped like a rock. Or actually, I should say that bonds themselves have gone way up, but the yields have dropped like a rock because they have an inverse relationship, and therefore our mortgage rates are lower. So that's interesting, Todd. That's like 80, 100%?
100%.
That's all. So that's definitely interesting. So that's a great lead-in to 5 reasons to sell your home this summer.
Yep.
Okay? Demand is strong. That was going to be reason number 1, even before Todd, quote-unquote, butted in.
Sorry about that.
No, it's awesome. I mean, that's incredible information, right? And it's what's interesting about the information you shared with us is it's not, just one mortgage guy's like experience or one real estate guy's experience. That's on a big level.
We're a bank, right? So that's 9 states, and that's that's unbelievable.
So that's definitely very interesting. Demand is strong, okay? And actually, in the latest buyer traffic report from the National Association of Realtors, it showed that buyer demand remains really strong throughout the vast majority of the country, and buyers are ready, they're willing, and they're able to purchase, and these rates make them that much more able. They basically directly translate to greater affordability, which translates into a greater buyer pool, more demand, and you're doing better as a seller.
Yep.
So that's number 1. Take advantage of that market. 2 is there's less competition right now than what there's likely to be as the market continues to cycle into its next phase. Right now, inventory, and I'm talking competition for you, the seller, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Inventory is remains under that 6-month marker. That big 6-month marker of once we hit 6 months of inventory, we're officially into a balanced market or possibly a buyer's market.
Right, but explain what that means by 6 months worth of inventory on the market, Dan, because a lot of people don't understand. They think that, that means it's sitting on,
That means that if we stop listing homes today.
Right.
Homes, when you're talking about 6 months of inventory, and we have less than that. But when you're talking about months of inventory, it means, if you say you have 5 months inventory or 3 months inventory, it means that if you stop listing homes and putting any further homes on the market, theoretically, they would all sell in that amount of months.
So we'd be out of inventory. There'd be nothing left to sell or
Correct. It doesn't actually play out that way in reality because if we did stop selling, listing homes, you'd have a couple of lemons that would just sit.
Right.
But in any case, that's what it means. And when you're under 6 months, you're considered to be in a seller's market. When you're over 6 months, you're considered to be in a buyer's market. And really, when you're hovering right at about 6 months or so, maybe anywhere from 5 to 7 months, you could say, I suppose, you're in a balanced market. What you'd experience, though, or in practice, a balanced market is very short-lived. Typically, you don't have a balanced market very long.
Right.
It's interesting how quickly things seem to change on a local level, though on a national level, it appears to be a little bit slower.
Right.
Having said that, we're still in what we would call a seller's market. That will not be the case. It's becoming less and less the case, and inventory is growing. So sell your home this summer while we're still in that environment.
Do you expect the inventory will grow in our fourth quarter?
Absolutely. I expect that it's going to continue to grow.
Got it.
We see it growing already in virtually every market outside of the coastal market, and it will get there eventually as well. But yes, we are seeing inventory growth. Okay? Here's something very important. If you're a move-up buyer, there's just never going to be a better time to be a move-up buyer, okay? Because if you're moving up to a larger, more expensive home, you have to consider doing it now because prices are projected to appreciate again over the next year on especially a national level. Here locally, I think that we will see some degree of that, but I think you're actually going to see, it's not as much. But in any case, when you're looking at today's interest rates and you can lock in a bigger loan at a lower rate, it is a really good time to be that move-up buyer.
So people say, though, Dan, and I think you have a program for it, but people say, well, how do I become a move-up buyer if I haven't seen my house sell? My house hasn't sold. How do I buy? That's something that I would encourage you guys to get in touch with us directly. But if you're facing the issue of how do I line up a purchase and a sale, okay, if your issue is how do I sell, how do I buy, how do I make them happen at the same time so I don't get stuck either homeless or with two homes, right?
That's a big conversation. We can look to cover it here next week, but it is a big conversation. I would very highly encourage you to get in touch with us. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed here on News Radio 600 KOGO. You can call 800-676-2420. That's 800-676-2420. You could also hook up with us via Facebook, iTunes, SoundCloud, etc. Just look us up, Daniel Beer or Todd Pianin. Here's something interesting. The process is quicker right now. Fannie Mae just announced that they anticipate an acceleration in home sales that will surpass 2007's pace by late summer. And as the markets head up, banks will be they're basically going to be inundated with loan inquiries. Right. And as those loan inquiries just get inundated and the banks get slower, right now is a better time to get your loan pushed through the system than as that pipeline just piles up.
As we call it, sort of the bulge of the python.
And finally, just to wrap up here, because we're going to move into our third segment, have to take you to break, just move on with your life. That's reason number 5. Move on with your life. Look at the reasons why you've decided to sell in the first place and realize that you're living once. What are the reasons you're moving? And get it going. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed here, News Radio 600 KOGO. You're with Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. We're going to be coming up next with a very interesting buyer process you don't want to miss. Hey, we're back with you. It's Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. I'm Daniel Beer, representing the Daniel Beer Group over at Keller Williams.
Todd Pianin, representing Home Street Bank.
And we want to talk about buying. We spend a lot of time on the show talking about selling. Now, if you're buying, how do you set yourself up for success buying a home? Because here's what I know. I know that I spoke with somebody this past week, Todd, that came through our, they came into our world. They went on to Zillow.
Right.
Okay, and thank goodness for Zillow, I guess, because it helps us meet people. But frankly, the way in which we're meeting them is misguided. Okay, they came. If you're on Zillow or on any other website sending inquiries, okay, and this is what happened. This person came into our world via an inquiry.
Right.
And it was, hey, I'm interested in this house. What can you tell me about it, and so on. And that's where the conversation started from. Well, first of all, the property that they had inquired on, it was already under contract. And that's the first issue. Okay, if you've been on
Zillow's data is old.
Well, this isn't like a Zillow rant as much as it is if you're really looking to get ahead of the market, putting yourself in front of Zillow and sending inquiry after inquiry to agents, and all of a sudden 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 agents all have your information. They're all bothering you now. When you're driving around and you're just driving around trying to find signs, okay, for sale signs on homes that may or may not still be on the market, and you're calling the agent on the sign. And again, thank you for doing that. We appreciate you coming into our world that way.
Right.
But here's the truth: you shouldn't be doing it. Okay, you shouldn't be doing it because by doing so, or look, call one sign, call two, but hook up with somebody.
Is there a better way of doing it?
You have to hire an agent to represent you on your purchase, just the same way that a seller is represented by their listing agent.
Wait,
buyers.
I don't understand. Why would I hire if I can do it on my own now with the internet being so easy? I'm going to play devil's advocate with you here. It's easy. I can go on Realtor.com, Zillow.com. I can go on your website, mySanDiegoHomefinder.com. I can, there's tons of why would I hire a buyer
Because when you
specialist?
put yourself in that world, you're chasing down the next home that just simply hit the internet or the next for sale sign that popped up in a neighborhood the same way that every other buyer in the marketplace is also doing. You're chasing the same stuff everyone else is chasing. You have zero advantage. You're basically just part of the system at that point. You're part of the listing agent's plan to put you in a pool of competition against other buyers.
Yeah, but can't I get rid of your commission and get a lower price on my house?
So this touches on, that question touches on, it's a very common thought, right? Here's the problem is that people that think they're going to go straight to the listing agent, this is one of the biggest mistakes that sellers make. I mean, really one of the very biggest mistakes sellers make. That buyers make, correct. When a buyer thinks they're going to call the listing agent direct and all of a sudden get great representation and get the, save all the commission
right
on that they were otherwise, right? They say, hey, but give me the buy side commission. Well, there's someone else involved in the transaction called the seller. The seller might be asking for the exact same thing from the agent. The agent has a relationship with the seller. The agent just met you. You just showed up. You just called the for sale sign. You just ping them on Zillow. You just ping them on their website. The agent has a relationship with the seller. Who do you think is really going to get that, money? Which, by the way, the answer to that might actually be nobody, because a reputable agent would actually not do that, understanding they're really representing both sides.
Right.
But if the money did go somewhere, is it all going to you? Is it going to the seller? How do you know where it went? You never truly know. It's the same as hiring. It's the same as being in a lawsuit and hiring the opposition's attorney. It's a crazy idea, which I suppose might seem okay on the surface, but once you even spend a minute thinking about it, you are not going to benefit from going direct to the listing agent. You're not going to get ahead of listings before they're on the market, which is the way to escape competitive bids. You're not going to make that happen by going from website to website and just following the crowd, open house to open house. You have to hire an agent. Okay, here's the big secret that some buyers are aware of, but that most just completely miss. The same way that a seller understands they should be hiring a listing agent, well, the buyer needs to hire a buyer specialist that represents their interest and their interest only. A buyer specialist that's not spending their day trying to also list and being their own assistant and also doing marketing and also trying to show homes and also trying to run transactions. And essentially imagine someone spinning 20 plates all at once on sticks. That's your typical, that's what it normally looks like, okay? Right. Well, if you get away from that and find a true buyer specialist that represents you, sits down and does a full needs analysis of exactly what you're looking for, understands it, listens, figures that out, and then goes and digs into the market for homes, whether or not they're publicly for sale. That's the key, Todd. When you're out looking for a property, do you want to be, if you're a buyer, would you rather be looking at a home that 10 other buyers are looking at? Or do you want to be looking at a home?
You mean be a sheep?
Right?
Be a sheep?
Or do you want to be a buyer looking at a home that your buyer specialist has identified, which hasn't even yet publicly hit the market, but because of their specialization in their role, they've been able to put you in front of just the right home following a needs analysis, a full needs analysis.
Right. That's who I'd pick. I mean, I wouldn't want any other way, but I mean, I just curious because everybody out in the marketplace seems to think that they're going to get a better deal if they either sell their homes themselves because there's such low inventory, or if they want to buy a home, that they should be able to buy a home, going directly to the listing agent. I mean, we've gotten transactions that I think that people haven't been represented properly, and what if something goes wrong during the deal? I mean, it just makes not a lot of sense, in my opinion.
One of the biggest takeaways is let's get a needs analysis done. It's interesting, real estate's just a funny industry. It's funny on both sides, not just the way agents behave, but the way that the buying and selling public behave. It's an interesting thing. You just won't find a space anywhere else in any other industry where so many dollars are changing hands.
Right.
And it's being done in just such a haphazard way. Right? Let me run into the streets and call signs.
Right.
I mean, can it get less targeted than that?
Right.
Amazing. Well, just like you wouldn't hire, if you were going to, let's say you needed a surgery, you have a medical condition.
Correct.
You wouldn't call the hospital and then book an appointment to meet your doctor on the operating table for the first time. That wouldn't happen. What you'd first do is sit with the doctor and do a full, analysis of what's going on with your body, and then the surgery would be prescribed.
Well, it's kind of like the LASIK people who, you know what I mean? If you go to a good LASIK guy, the eye surgery where you can see better.
Sure.
You see people, I hear people on the radio all the time offering specials, $800 an eye or whatever. I mean, why do you think the guy is charging $800 an eye when the normal guy charges, let's say, $1,700 an eye for the sake of argument? You're not going to get what the $1,700 an eye is.
Yeah, but I think it's a process issue, right? I mean, when people are just haphazardly running, calling signs, and then boom, they're off and looking at homes. If you were in a lawsuit,
right,
you wouldn't just meet your attorney at the courtroom.
No.
You'd meet them at their office. You'd go through a full analysis of the situation. You'd create a strategic plan. Then you'd make your way to the courtroom.
Correct.
If you were going to, like I said, if you were in need of medical attention and possibly a surgery, you'd first have a full analysis done. Then you'd have the surgery.
Right.
The same thing happens here in home purchasing, at least if it's done smart. If you go and sit down for a full needs analysis, and we'd like to offer you a full buyer needs analysis without any obligation to ever do anything else further, give us a phone call. Sit down with a buyer specialist. The number's 800-676-2420. Here's what it looks like. You sit down with them for about 30 to 45 minutes. And in those 30 to 45 minutes, you'll save literally over, you're just going to save hours and hours and hours of being out there in the ether of, real estate purchasing, possibly looking at homes that aren't even on the market on various websites. And instead, you're going to have someone that understands exactly what you're looking for, what your family is trying to accomplish, where you're trying to be, what your timing looks like, is going to respect it, and is going to then go and dig into the marketplace of homes of not just that are online. Everyone else is looking at those, but rather they're going to try to get you ahead of the next home prior to it becoming public knowledge. That gives you a negotiating advantage as a buyer, and it doesn't waste your time. If that's something you want to explore further, hook up with us. 800-676-2420. Our buyer specialists would be more than happy to do so. And if you need a good ironclad pre-approval from someone that's not going to miss something that the underwriter then kicks back in the last minute, you can also hook up with Todd and Taisha at Home Street Bank. Number is 800-676-2420. Be a smart buyer. Be a smart buyer. That's the biggest thing here. Hire proper representation. We're going to head to break. And coming up next, we're going to be discussing the home selling workshops that are coming up and giving you the inside track on really the one thing that is going to make a big, big, big difference in this market. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed. Daniel Beer, Todd Pianin. Number's 800-676-2420.
Welcome back to Real Estate Exposed here on KOGO 600. I'm Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank with my buddy Dan Beer from the Daniel Beer Group at Keller Williams. One of the things I'm excited to talk about is what we've just, because of popular demand, Dan and I do these home selling workshops that we normally do August. We'll probably would have done it in August or September, but what we're doing is we're decided to do a one-day event, two of them, on July 27th. And so if you're very interested if you're thinking about selling your home, and because you didn't make our last home selling seminars, it's Wednesday, July 27th, please give us a call at 800-676-2420 and reserve your tickets. We're telling you guys now early because you are our audience, people who
there were just people that couldn't get in last time.
Couldn't get in last time. We want to make sure they get in this time, and we decided to put this on the calendar, do it one day only, two of them, and we're going to provide lunch for the lunchtime one as usual, and I think you got to go. And again, the number is 800-676-2420. Dan's going to give you all of his secret sauce, what he does, his specialty.
That's the place where you learn how to net upwards of $62,000 extra on the sale of your home versus using traditional methods.
Correct.
And it's a purely educational event, which is the coolest thing. That's been really what people have appreciated. They come and they realize, like, wow, you just spilled your guts with your proprietary information, your specifics. You really gave us a blueprint, and you asked us to do nothing. You didn't even ask us to for more or to sign something or nothing. You just dumped on us with information, and that's the biggest compliment we get out of these, and we love doing it.
I mean, the testimonials we got from the last 3-day event that we did were unbelievable. I mean, tens across the board. People walked out with huge nuggets, huge ways of changing things. I mean, we had someone from Arizona who actually flew in for the seminar, which was awesome.
Let's wrap on what's happening though downtown. There's a big shift in what the landscape could look like, right? Or what the skyline might look like.
Well, what's super exciting, they're talking about redoing Seaport Village, and they're talking about doing what they did in downtown LA, which was like the Nokia Center, which basically putting in an 18,000 seat not arena, but a place for people a venue for people to hear music and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you've been to the Nokia Center downtown, but I mean, in downtown Los Angeles, right next door to the Staples Center.
Tons of fun. It's just an awesome scene.
Tons of restaurants, tons of great things to do. But I mean, with this coming in, this would be a huge project. If this goes through, this will be a huge project.
So you're saying that San Diego might put its big boy pants on?
They are putting their big boy pants on. I mean, looks like we're keeping the Chargers. Looks like...
you might be getting ahead of yourself there.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Dan just showed me his softball injury. Sorry. So anyway, but back to what's going on downtown. All I can tell you is that it's super exciting. I mean, you're talking about 18,000 square foot arena that we would have, big music players at and all kinds of things. And then
this replaces Seaport Village, is that right?
That's what they're talking about, or next to Seaport Village. So super exciting. I mean, to me, that would make me go to live music. I don't go to live music, but if it was downtown where I could just Uber downtown, like when we went to, go to the Padres, makes it super easy, simple. I don't like driving out.
You got the Embarcadero now.
Yeah, but
Humphreys.
Yeah, you got Humphreys. They put you in plastic chairs. It's not as fun. I'm kind of a snob when it comes to that kind of thing. But I think it makes it super easy, especially with Uber and everything else. So I'm super excited about that. That's going on. I mean, I think that could be tremendous for the downtown traffic.
It's just fun to see. You start to get this sense that San Diego is in the middle of kind of what's starting to become a very, very definitive years in its development.
Well, you talked about that Google and Amazon are opening up. There's
just so much going on, but everything from the Charger conversation to keeping Comic-Con or losing Comic-Con, and who are we going to be, and what do we do with the convention center, and now this development of reinventing the Seaport Village area to jobs that are coming into the area where Google is bringing in all kind, they're and I don't have the exact number for you, so I won't give it to you, but there's all kinds of engineering jobs that are being brought into town by Google, and they're opening a plant here. There's also going to be a large office being opened here by Amazon. Right. And so, by the way, if you're an engineer in town, congratulations to you, because your wages are about to go up.
Exactly.
I mean, because there's already a shortage of good engineers here in town. That's one of our strongest industries, and there's a shortage of engineers already. And man, it's just going to get that much more competitive. So, if you're heading into college, by the way, and you're listening to this, you might think of an engineering job. But anyway,
I thought about realtor, actually. They should become realtors.
Oh, man, we already have plenty of those. but there's just a lot of development. The Del Sur area right now, there's 150 people being hired by Sprouts to run the new Sprouts in Del Sur.
Dude, Burger Lounge just opened there. Sprouts open there. Target open there. I mean, we are becoming a rapidly kind of, I don't want to say like a very urban city.
And some of that is happening no matter what, right? So the Amazon and the Google and the Sprouts and all those jobs coming in, that's great.
Right.
What's really going to be interesting is I just get this sense that they're defining years right now for San Diego.
Yep.
Are we going to reinvent the Seaport Village area or are we not? That changes the city.
Yep.
Are we going to reinvent the convention center or not? How's that going to play in with the Chargers stadium, or will we lose them?
Right.
Who are we going to be? That's what you have to ask yourself, and especially as we've just had an election round and as we continue to have further elections, you really have to be aware of where this city is heading, and hopefully you vote for progress and for development and for growth. You've been listening to Real Estate Exposed. Remember, those home selling workshops, we're doing a special one for all you that couldn't get into the last one. It's coming up this month when we typically wouldn't have had them for another couple of months. So July 27th, get in touch with us. Number for that or anything else, 800-676-2420. It's 800-676-2420.
This is Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank, wishing everybody a happy 4th of July. Home Street Bank's a member of the FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS ID number 304014. And don't forget, look for us on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes. See you next week.